Yeah, you're gonna grab the lights, aren't you? Hey.
Do what? Not with me right now. I'll get you one when we do homework. Do you have the rulers? She went. Okay. That's fine.
My ibuprofen now.
Yeah.
6-2. Yeah, just a second. Okay, 6-2.
So we are solving systems. Chapter 6 is all about solving systems. A system of equations is two or more equations. And in this class it will be two. So if I want to solve a system, we solved a system by graphing yesterday. You graph the two lines, see where they cross, that is your answer. The ordered pair, where they cross, is your answer. Because you can plug in x and y and it works out for both of them. So now we are going to solve systems using substitution. So my goal, just like any other system, is to find x and y that works for both equations. That works for both equations. That is the goal. Whenever we solve a system, my goal is to always find an x and a y value that works for both equations. So that means, like I showed you yesterday in the notes, you can plug in x and y to both equations and both equations come out true. Now, substitution is a nice way to solve this because you do not have to graph this. Graphing is hard sometimes because you might have noticed when you did your homework that sometimes they don't cross at an exact point. And it's hard because you're not sure if it's a decimal or if it's an exact whole number. So graphing is nice to know how to do, but it's not something we choose to do if we have to solve a system because it's hard to get an exact answer. Substitution, you are going to pick this one if one equation is x equals or y equals. And you're gonna have to choose between the two types, between substitution and it's called elimination, which we'll get to Thursday and Friday. But substitution you will choose if you have one equation that is x equals or y equals, or it's easy to do that. And we'll talk about that in a second. So substitution, we are looking for an equation. Alex, keep your head up, please. We're looking for an equation that is x equals or y equals. Here's my steps. Step 1, to solve a system of equations using substitution, pick an equation. So pick one of the equations and get a variable alone. And that is what I mean. We're going to pick one of the equations and we're going to make sure we have x equals or y equals. Sometimes this will be done for you, sometimes it won't. Step 2, next you're going to plug in the variable into the other equation and solve. So we're going to plug in the variable into another equation and solve. And when I say solve, that means I'm going to get what? What will my answer look like when I solve an equation? If I solve an equation, what will my answer look like? You know. Solve an equation. If I solve an equation, what will my answer look like? No. If I say, here's an equation, solve this, what will my answer look like? X equals a number. Or y equals a number. So if I solve an equation, I'm going to get x equals a number or y equals a number. The last step is to plug in to solve for the other equation. Okay, I either call this method my Glade method. Now some of you guys, this joke never, you guys are too young, but plug it in, plug it in. You remember the commercial for Glade? Plug it in, plug it in. Okay, this is what you're plugging in twice. So substitution, don't look at me and judge my singing. You're plugging it in twice. So you're going to plug it in once and then plug it in again. Okay, so let's look at some examples. Now, these are doable. Okay, a substitution kids always seem to do pretty well with because it's a lot of review. Now, as I look at this, I would choose substitution because I notice my top equation is y equals. So step 1 is already done for you. Get an equation x equals or y equals. The first one is already y equals. Okay? So step 2, we can go right on to step 2. Step 2, we are going to plug in the variable into the other equation and solve. So we are going to take that 2x plus 1 and plug it in for y in the other equation. 2x plus 1 is the same thing as y. That is why y equals that. So I can take 2x plus 1 and plug it in for y in the other equation. Like we did on the warm-ups where we had a equals a number and we plugged that in for a. It's the same thing. So that 2x plus 1 takes the place of y in my bottom equation. So my bottom equation looks like 3x plus 2x plus 1 equals negative 9. Now this is substitution. If I have a substitute teacher, I am gone. So if I am substituting 2x plus 1 in for y, the y is gone. So my bottom equation looks like 3x plus 2x plus 1, which is what I plugged in, equals negative 9. Any questions on that? Now, what do you notice about this equation? What's my only variable left? X. So I can solve this equation for x. This is an equation that you've done before. So we need to solve this equation for x. So what do I do first to solve this equation for x? No? No? Let's combine first. What's 3x plus 2x? 5x plus 1 equals negative 9. So once you substitute in, it's an equation you know how to solve. So go through and solve it. Minus 1 to both sides. So 5x equals negative 10. Negative 9 minus 1. And then divide by 2. So x equals negative 2.
You said divide by 2.
Sorry, divide by 5. X equals negative 2. Now, this is not my answer. This is part of my answer. By solution to a system, I have to have what two answers? Yes?
You have to plug in negative 2 x.
Yes? I need an x and y answer. Think about yesterday. We want the ordered pair where the lines cross. I need an ordered pair. I have an x. I need the y value. This is the third part. The third step is I know x is negative 2. So I need to know y. So which equation would be easiest if I want to know y?
Top one.
The top one, because it's already y equals. It doesn't matter what you plug x back into, but if I want to know what y is, choose the equation that's already y equals. That's the nice thing about substitution, is you're going to have an easy equation to plug it into because it's already y equals. So x is negative 2, so I plug negative 2 in where x is in the top equation, just like we did on the warm-up. If a was 3, I plugged in 3 for a. X is negative 2, so I plugged that in for x in the top equation. What is 2 times negative 2? Plus 1?
Negative 3.
Negative 3. So my x value is negative 2. My y value is negative 3. So write it as an ordered pair, just like we did yesterday, where an ordered pair where they cross was my answer. So I have to write it as an ordered pair. Negative 2, negative 3. Okay, any questions on that? You're solving equations and then plugging it in, like we did on the warm-up. Okay, let's look at number 2 real quick. As I look at number 2, what do I notice on number 2? If I need it, do what? Neither of them have x equals or y equals. Perfect. Step 1 is to get one of the equations x equals something or y equals something. So which of these two equations would be easiest to get x equals or y equals? The first one. Because x is already, there's no number out in front of the x. So if I need to choose an equation to get x equals or y equals, I'm going to choose the top one because there's no number out in front of the x. So that means I'm not going to have to divide. So what do I do to my top equation to get x by itself? Subtract 2y. So I have x equals 6 minus 2y. So now I'm good. So I have my top equation, and you can kind of cross out the top equation if you want to, and there's my new top one. It doesn't matter if you do that or not. So x equals 6 minus 2y. So now, step 2 is I can take what x equals, which is 6 minus 2y, and plug it in where? And for the x, in which equation? The other equation, the bottom one. So I'm going to take what x equals, 6 minus 2y, and plug it in where x is in my other equation. So 3 times is times a quantity. So I have parentheses. And what did x represent?
6 minus 2y.
So I take that and plug it in where x is. I am substituting it in, so it takes the place of x. So I have 3 times 6 minus 2y, which is what x was, minus 4y equals 28. Any questions so far? Okay. Now if I look at this, I have an equation, and what's my only variable left? Y. So I can solve this equation for y. So if I solve this equation for y like you've done before, what do I do first to solve this equation for y? Distribute. So if I distribute the 3, what will I get? 3 times 6 minus 2y.
18 minus
6y. Good. Minus 4y equals 28. What do I do next? Do what? Yeah, combine.
So 8, 9, 9y.
Negative 6y minus 4y. Negative 10y equals 28. And like I said, after each step, your equation should look easier and easier. Next thing to get y, to solve for y, subtract 18. Good. So negative 10y equals, what's 28 minus 18? 10. Divide by the negative 10 to get it out front of the y. Okay, y equals negative 1. 10 divided by negative 10, y equals negative 1. Is that my answer? No, this is a system, so I need an ordered pair. So I know what y is negative 1, so I need to find what next? X. Now let's think about it. It doesn't matter which equation you choose, but if I want to find x, which equation would be easiest to plug it into? The one that looks like what? X equals. If I want to know x, save yourself some work and pick the equation that's already x equals. So we're going to take that and we're going to plug negative 1 in for y. So we're going to take that, we're going to plug negative 1 where y is. What is negative 2 times negative 1? So 6 plus 2, and 6 plus 2 is what? 8. So my ordered pair, make sure you write it as an ordered pair, is 8, comma, negative 1. Okay. Any questions on that? Okay, I want to look at a couple more real quick. You'll be fine. Okay, let's look at, let's see,
None of these on this page.
just a second. Minus 2,
Hey, how about we do story problems?
18. Just a second. Let's look at example 2 around here. Let's look at example 2. Okay, let's look at example 2. If I look at example 2, first thing I notice is what?
It's already y.
Do what? What's the first thing I look for substitution?
You need to subtract 3.
Okay, I need to get an equation x equals or y equals. So as I look at this, which equation would be easiest to get x equals or y equals? Or, doesn't really matter, the bottom. So I'm going to add 2 to both sides on the bottom to get y by itself. Either equation is just as easy, because it's either subtract 3 or add 2, so I'm going to add 2. So my bottom equation is y equals negative 3x plus 2. To use substitution, you first have to get an equation x equals or y equals. Sometimes it will be done for you, sometimes it won't. The second part, I'm going to take my negative 3x plus 2 and plug it in where?
And for y.
In for y in my other equation. That is the same thing as y, so I can plug it in where y is in my top equation, my other equation. So my top equation will look like what?
Negative 3x plus 2
Okay,
plus 3 2x.
equals 2x. So you take negative 3x plus 2 and you plug it in where y is in your top equation. Okay, I need you guys to keep your head up. I need to keep heads up. I need to make sure you guys get this. Okay, so step 2. Now if I look at this is an equation, and what is my only variable left?
X.
X. So I can solve for x. So what do I do first to solve for x? Okay, that's going to be negative 3x plus 5. 2 plus 3 is 5. What do I do next? Add 3x. Add 3x. 5 equals 5x. 3 plus 2x, 5x. Divide by 5. So x equals 1. So once you plug it in, it's solving an equation. You know how to solve an equation.
3 minus 2 is 1 too.
Okay, my third step is I have x equals 1. Now I need to know what y is. Michael, are you taking notes? Okay. So I need to know what y is. So if x equals 1, I need to know what y is. So y, to find what y is, what do I do? Plug 1 in for x. Which equation would be easiest to use?
Top.
Use the one that's already y equals negative 3x plus 2. It doesn't matter which one you choose, but the easiest one, if I want to know y, is already get it so it's y equals. Okay, let's plug in 1 for x. So negative 3 times 1 plus 2. I plug 1 in where x is. What's negative 3 times 1? Negative 3 plus 2. And what's negative 3 plus 2? Negative 1. So my ordered pair is x comma negative 1.
X comma. Huh?
Now, because you put x comma y. Now, no solution. These are equations. So how do I get no solution from a normal equation?
If it equals 1.
How do I get no solution? So if I'm going through and solving this system, how would I know my answer is no solution? It's just like a normal equation. How do I know a normal equation is no solution? Done this before. If I'm solving an equation, how do I know that it's going to end up being no solution?
Huh? I don't understand.
If I'm solving an equation, how do I know that it's going to be no solution?
You plug in 1 and 1.
No, you're solving a normal equation. I'm solving a normal equation. How do I know my answer will be no solution when I'm solving a normal equation? If I end up getting what? No, you can have decimals. Do what? No. Normal equation. If I have a normal equation, how do I know I will get no solution when I have a normal equation?
When there's no x,
Not necessarily. Close though.
there's no y.
No, then we're going to look at this example. Okay, write this example down. I wasn't going to do it, but since we aren't answering this correctly, then we're going to look at this. Okay, example, if I have something like this, negative 3x plus 5 equals 2 minus 3x. Here's an equation, normal equation. This is not a system, this is a normal equation, so write this down.
Where is that thing on the left?
Example, because it's another example. You can cross out example 3. Okay, what do I do to solve this equation?
Oh. Add 3x.
Add 3x. If I add 3x to both sides,
They cancel out.
okay, I notice that negative 3x plus 3x is nothing. So I get 5 equals 2. Why is this no solution?
5 doesn't equal 2.
5 does not equal 2. You end up with, guys, you end up with no solution if you get two numbers equal that are not equal. It's the same with the system. If you're going through and you end up with two numbers equal that are not equal, it is no solution. How do I get all solution?
If the 2 equals the same.
If the two numbers are the same. If this is a true statement, if 5 does equal 5, then it is all solution. So you get an all solution if you're going through and you get a number equal to a number and they are the same number. If it is a true statement, then you get all solution. Okay, any questions on that? Okay,
Let's just go ahead.
let's go ahead and be done today. I'm feeling nice. We're not going to do the story problem on the back because we're going to do those later next week. Okay, so homework is page,
Almost done a worksheet.
no, because there's no graphing. 347. It's going to change a little bit. Someone have their book out. The one of these is a story problem. I want to take it off. Look real quick.
347?
347. Which one is a story problem on 1 through 16?
7.
Okay, so your assignment is 1 through 6, 8 through 16. So we are skipping the story problem because we are going to get to it next week. So number 7 you don't have to do. So your assignment 347, 1 through 6, 8 through 16.
Well, these are going to be quick and easy.
Hopefully.
Maybe. Oh my lord. Ow, my eyes.
Yes. Now this is due Thursday. Like I said, do not get behind because you're getting 4 assignments this week because we have to get through some of the stuff.